Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, today we are going to talk about foreclosures. This was part of the chief economist of NAR's report. This is, of course, forward-looking information, meaning this is potentially what could happen in the future with foreclosures. But before we do that, we ran into a fan of the channel today. So in our neighborhood is a house similar to ours. We wanted to check it out because it's almost a model match and compare it to ours and everything. So we walk in the front door and there's this agent it's holding the house open. Her name is Azadeh. And we walk in and she goes, "Oh my God, I watch your channel. Like I watch all the episodes." So thank you, Azadeh. It was nice meeting you and everything. But, I think the number is like a third. I've talked to a bunch of agents. I mean, I run into agents all the time that say they watch the channel. So anyway, everyone's welcome to watch the channel, whether you're an agent or not. Okay, let's talk about this thing with foreclosures. There's this sort of belief that all the people in the last 2 years that have these super high 6-7% mortgages are all going to get foreclosed because nobody can afford a 6 or 7% mortgage, right?
Well, clearly they could afford them because they got them, and lending practices are much more stringent than they have ever been. I read somewhere that the average credit score for somebody getting a mortgage is like a 740. 740.
740.
That's pretty amazing. So clearly they can afford them. Otherwise, they would not have qualified for the mortgage in the first place. And so that's where we are.
The median credit score at the housing crash was like 620 or something. Anybody could get a mortgage.
So the joke was that you didn't have to fog up a mirror to qualify for a mortgage.
You could buy 5 houses by stating your income. You didn't have to prove it. You just had to write on the thing, "Oh, I make $5,000 a month. Oh, 5 houses."
So to be fair, those loan programs still exist, but they require a much higher down payment.
Okay, let's talk about foreclosures. Juana, what is the first big indicator to a possible for someone to get foreclosed?
Well, so they don't make their mortgage payment.
They don't make their mortgage payment. There's this thing called seriously delinquent mortgages. We're going to show you a chart in a second. What is seriously delinquent mean? What's the threshold? How many payments do you have to miss before it becomes serious?
Oh, I thought that was like the Groucho Marx glasses, and that makes you look serious.
Okay. I don't have any Groucho Marx. The prop guy did not deliver Groucho Marx glasses today. Okay, so seriously delinquent is 90 days or longer. 90 days. So here is the chart. Now, we're going to talk about this chart, serious delinquent mortgages. Now, there's 2 very interesting things on this chart. One is the housing crash, which you can see the substantial number of delinquent mortgages. It was about 10% of all mortgages were seriously delinquent. Now, it jumped up in COVID, Juana, because people were not working. Right. So they started missing mortgage payments. But the jobs came back, the people went back to work, home prices went up. So first of all, you have people incentivized not to miss their payments or whatever because they have equity in the house. How many, do you remember, we did a video on this 2 years ago. What percentage of people that missed home payments in 2020 by the end of 2021 had reconciled with the bank and gotten back on track?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if it was the end of 2021 or 2022, but just nearly everybody.
It's 97%.
Yeah.
The other 3%, they could have sold or done some other thing. Right. They could have refied or whatever.
Right. So the other 3%, they either sold a home, they refied, or they made arrangements with the bank to put the payments on the back end, or they made some sort of arrangement. Basically, they still weren't foreclosed.
Okay, so when you look at this chart and you look at the 2024 Q1, this is the latest numbers. It's extremely low. It's actually the lowest it's ever been. You're probably saying, well, this only goes back to 2000. Well, this statistic was the first time it was actually measured was in 1999. This wasn't a thing. So we have the lowest number of and this is the percentage of seriously delinquent mortgages. So what are some reasons? Give a couple reasons why, interest rates are double. You would think there would be a ton of people that just stop making their payment. Why would somebody keep making their mortgage payment? Why wouldn't they just say, forget it, I'm not going to make the mortgage payment?
Well, because they have a fixed rate interest rate, right? So if you have a fixed rate interest rate, then your mortgage payment doesn't change with the whims of the market. That's the whole point of a fixed rate interest rate. And we know that most people have sub 4% interest rates. So they are not affected by what's happening with mortgage rates for new borrowers. And like I said at the beginning, new borrowers who are borrowing at the higher rates are well qualified buyers and borrowers. So they're not in jeopardy of being foreclosed either, barring some life event.
The average down payment is 20% on so some are putting more, some are putting less. If you bought a $500,000 house and you have a 7% interest rate, you bought it 2 years ago, you put 20% down, you put $100,000 down in the house. So your loan is for $400,000. If the house is still worth $500,000, your rate is still 7%, it hasn't changed. Now there are people probably that were hoping they could have refied by now, but they're probably not. But you're not just going to walk on the mortgage, because what happens if you just walk on the mortgage? You only owe $400,000. You get foreclosed. Some investor buys the house for $460,000, $470,000, $480,000. They basically are they get the house.
Right. So the way that works is if you owe $400,000, somebody buys the house, let's say for $450,000. By the time the bank gets made whole with the $400,000, plus all the foreclosure fees, back payments, that sort of thing, you're going to end up with nothing. I mean, the house would have to sell for substantially more for you to end up with anything because of all those fees and back payments and that sort of thing. So your first thing to do at that point would be, if you feel that, hey, I can no longer afford this house and I can't make ends meet for the long term, not in the short term, because in the short term, you can do a workout with the bank. But if in the long term you can't make ends meet, then your next option would be to sell the house and get your equity back out of the house. Because if the house gets foreclosed, then you get nothing. Now, there is a school of thought that, hey, it takes 3 years to foreclose, so maybe this is an option for me. At that point, that's a personal choice, and you'd have to do the math and see what made sense. But, I think most people would make the choice of selling the home, getting whatever cash they can out of it, and getting on with their lives, rather than having this protracted process and all this uncertainty regarding a foreclosure.
42% of all people own the home free and clear, zero chance of being foreclosed because they don't actually have a mortgage. You have, of the rest of the people, it's almost everybody, all but 2 or 3% have pretty low, let's call it under 5% rates. Mm-hmm. Their payment is so low, they're paying far less in mortgage than they would ever rent the house for. Meaning if they would be dumb to get rid of the house. This is that lock-in effect. Interest rates are so low, they're like, why would I get rid of this payment? If I sold the house and put the cash in my pocket, my rent would be even more. I'd start burning the money that I'm saving. So people are better off staying in the house, paying a lower mortgage amount, having extra cash to save or invest or do whatever with, or go buy another house or something, right?
Right. So there are people who have these low interest rates, and for whatever reason, they need to relocate. So what they're doing is they're renting out the property and putting the extra cash in their pocket, because remember, their mortgage rates, their mortgage payments are relatively low versus what they can get in rent, because they have equity in the house, because they refinanced, when interest rates were low. So they've got this arbitrage going on, right, between what their mortgage payment is versus what they can get in rent. So they're putting the extra cash in their pockets and maybe moving to a different market where maybe homes are more affordable or whatever's going on, but they're still keeping those homes. So that's an option for people in that situation.
Most of the people, the couple percent of people who have interest rates that are 6, 7%, it's a high probability starting with September that the Fed will start cutting back rates. And if this happens and interest rates drop meaningfully, I think, my gut tells me if rates drop like 1%, like if you could get a mortgage for 1% less than you have, that could trigger people to, there will be people who refi. Like they'll say, look, I got 7.3%. This is interest rates are now 6.2. I'm just going to do it. It's only $300 a month, but I'll take it, right? We know people who did that. They did a refi when rates hit 3, and then they did a refi when rates hit 2.
Right.
They refied. Also, the VA loans, it's the IRRRL program. They have to do a refi. They get a certain time frame where they basically get a free refi built into the thing. They don't have to pay any costs. But the VA has a certain period of time where they actually have to go in and refi the loan as rates drop.
But even other loan programs, the lenders have put in their package that if you refi within so much time, they will do the refi for free. So while normally refis are not free, for a lot of people, refis will be either free or very low cost, and that's going to incentivize people to refi. So what I envision is in the short term, you'll have people who will refi to just put an extra few $100s in their pocket every month. And in the long term, they're going to refi again on their own dime to get their rate at an even better level. I think that people will want to refi early on as soon as rates start going down, just to hedge their bet that rates maybe will pop back up. So I think you will see a number of people doing that, and then you'll see the people who are going to roll the dice and say, well, I'm going to save my free refi for a little bit down the road when rates go down a little more.
The crash bros are out there with the fear videos of foreclosure filings. They're up 10%. Well, first of all, remember the last few years, we've had the least number of filings ever. Mm-hmm. And remember this too, there's 140 million houses in the housing market. And then a filing doesn't mean the house was foreclosed. In many cases, it takes numerous filings. Like in Nevada, it's taking 3 years to foreclose. And every 90 days, you have to refile notice of default because it rolls off. After 90 days, if you don't file notice of trustee sale, you have to file another notice of default. You have to keep filing them. So it's possible that you could do 12 of these in a 3-year period. And if you let's say you file 12 of them, and then the people either get current or sell the house or something else, that data is out there. So people are like, look at all these foreclosure filings. They're going up. But it's literally a meaningless statistic. It's foreclosure filing. I'll give you an example. We had, in the last 12 months, we had like 1,600 NODs filed in Nevada. But in the last 12 months, we only actually had 150 foreclosures actually in all of Las Vegas, which is like, one every 3 days. So it's not like, with 700,000 houses total in our geo area and then 400,000 just in Vegas, that one foreclosure every 3 days, it literally doesn't affect the market because, 40, 50 houses come on the market every day. If one in 150 is a foreclosure, it's not like it drags down the market or anything like that. It just gets absorbed like a normal house.
Absolutely. And you see that with what's going on in the MLS, and you can look at those in other sites like Zillow, Realtor.com, and all those, and there are really very few foreclosures. And again, we've talked about this before, but generally foreclosures happen not necessarily from an affordability standpoint, but more from a life event standpoint. And like I've said before, a number of them are when there's been some sort of a hardship or somebody has died and the heirs either don't know what to do and that sort of thing. And that's when foreclosures happen because so many people have equity, right? So long as people have equity, foreclosures are less likely to happen because obviously people can sell their home, put money in their pockets, and get on with life.
One of the things that Lawrence Yun said in the NAR briefing, there's zero risk of foreclosures in the future that will affect housing in any way. It's zero risk. So when you see the crash bros talk about foreclosures, or Nevada has the highest rate, well, if every state has had one foreclosure filing, Nevada had 2, we'd lead the nation in foreclosures. But I'm telling you, we probably do lead the nation because remember, we have to refile every 90 days. The bank has to keep refiling if someone's late on their payment or whatever, or has missed payments or things. So it's a bit misleading. Other states, you don't have to do that. In other states, you file once with the court, and then you have like a year or two, whatever, for the next step of the process. So be very careful when you hear, especially in Nevada or Las Vegas, foreclosure filings or whatever. It's a crash bro thing where they're just trying to scare you. But anyway, we wanted to show you this data because the people trying to make decisions about whether they should buy or sell or whatever. And, that we've been hearing since 2013, when the shadow inventory was going to crash the market, the annual housing crash that we really haven't seen yet. And, 2022 was for sure, oh my gosh, 40, 50%. And, none of this has happened. No, there was no foreclosures, like all the things they said, zero of it happened.
Right.
Yeah.
So as far as the right time to sell, the right time to buy, that has to do with your individual situation, less with the market. Don't worry about timing the market. Make a good decision for your particular situation. If you're interested in buying or selling in the Las Vegas area or anywhere else, please get in touch with us. We'd love to help you. Remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video. Leave us your real estate related comments down below. We love reading them and we love responding to them. And we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.